Hello, guys. They say there are things that we may observe eternally because they are so beautiful and dear to our heart. For me, as a Ukrainian, this would be how the Russian oil refineries are burning, how the Black Sea fleet and even submarines are sinking, and perhaps how the Russian oil prices are constantly falling. That's because it is deadly for their economy and their war machine. Actually, the history repeats itself. The collapse of the USSR was very much influenced by the exhausting war and constantly falling oil prices. And I've just learned that the Russian oil prices have been falling for 11 consecutive weeks. And right now, Russians sell their Urals oil in the Baltics for just $40 per barrel. This is way less than they planned in their budget. What's better, in the Black Sea, the price is even lower, just $37 per barrel. Let's discuss what is happening with their oil prices and how this actually influences not just the economy, but the oil industry itself, leading to the more and more decisions to stop the transportation, to stop the mining, which can literally freeze it for decades. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see Putin in The Hague, subscribe and share these videos to spread the truth. Don't let Russian lies and manipulation influence your decisions that may have important consequences, not just for me personally in Ukraine and for all of us here, but also for the generations of your people in your countries. Because Russia has a lot of evil plans, but we know how to stop them, including by undermining their oil industry. I often report about the problems on their oil depots, refineries, terminals, but today we will concentrate on the market because right now the market is also against Russia. So first of all, you know that there are global oil prices and they keep falling. Brent is minus 2.5%, but Russia observes worse problems because of the sanctions. After more and more sanctions were imposed on Rosneft, on Lukoil, on Tatneft, and many other Russian companies, they started offering discounts for the countries and companies that right now aren't that excited to buy the Russian oil because they fear economic consequences, secondary sanctions, even though these mechanisms aren't fully operating right now. But the very fact that it may hurt their correspondent economies, even in India, in China, in many other countries, raises concerns. And to be competitive on the market, Russia has to drop prices so that you are prepared to risk just because you are buying that Russian bloody oil cheaper. And what we see right now, the prices are literally not worth perhaps this mining and production cost, because in the Baltics, and that was an important transportation hub, by the way, visited by the Ukrainian drones already, Ust-Luga port and some others. And Ust-Luga is near to St. Petersburg, the sacred for the Putin's regime, a city that has already experienced the failures of his special military operation that returned back to Russia and now echoes in very different corners of this unnaturally vast territory. But anyway, in the Baltics, they say they sell Russian oil for $40 per barrel. And Russians wanted like 60, 67, 70, 40. And in the Black Sea, that is super dangerous for the Russian vessels, for the Russian submarines, they sell for just $37 per barrel. Literally, there is nothing. I know that a lot of people watch us who know more about oil, about gas, about gasoline, and you can clearly compare to the situation in your countries and the very fact that right now gasoline in Russia is more expensive than in the United States, in many European countries tells it all, because Russia is the country that was on the top of the market, that was often compared by many politicians to a gas station run by mafia. And right now, they experience these tremendous problems with the storage, with the production of oil after the destruction of depots, export terminals, refineries, but they also experience this constantly dropping prices. And according to Bloomberg, that's an important fact, approximately, just imagine, 172 million barrels of the Russian oil are floating at the sea, unable to reach the shores, because once again fewer and fewer companies in fewer and fewer countries are prepared to risk their well-being, fearing their consequences. Plus, you might have noticed that these evil tankers that helped the Kremlin avoid the sanctions somehow started exploding, luckily when they are empty. But again, not many companies now are interested to rent their tankers to the Russian oil operations or to accept them in their ports, because Russia is a danger to the world. And I do think that people who are reasonable, people who can look at what is happening inside this federation, what is happening with the oil prices, what is happening with the Russian ruble, with stagflation in their country, can sense that Russia is super weak and super aggressive. It's kind of connected. And now the task is to remain united, to target where it hurts most, and thus demilitarize this evil monster that has a lot of bad plans for many countries. There are reports about 360,000 troops on the border with NATO, with the European countries, near Belarus, near the Baltics. And what is the best way to guarantee peace and security in the Eastern Europe, in the Central Europe? Right, to defeat and demilitarize Russia. And they have a lot of problems now inside with this taxi drivers protests that are closely connected to gasoline prices, lack of oil. More and more protests lead to stronger movements for the liberation of various nations that are now oppressed by the Kremlin. But as Rajana Dugar de Ponte, with whom we recently had an interview on this channel, said, why do so many American presidents, EU leaders keep giving the Kremlin these opportunities, try to reboot the democracy in Russia, and it constantly fails? Maybe it's the time to give other nations a chance and they may succeed better. Let me know what do you think in the comments below, and remember to subscribe to my new Anna Danilchuk channel, where we have weekly updates about some important internal issues both in Ukraine, in Russia, that I hope can explain you more about this part of the world. Follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Discord, the links in the description of this video, same as the link to the merch shop with lots of beautiful and meaningful presents. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!